Hey guys, welcome back to another Gwent video. This is going to be the final video, and it's going to be a bigger one because I'm going to be covering two different things. The Scoia'tael reveals and the neutral reveals, and patch 9.0, which was released today. For those who missed the Masters Gwent Tournament Season 1, oh my god, you missed out some incredible matches. Congratulations to Colemon for a fantastic showcase. I was rooting for Freddy Babes, but yeah, unfortunately he came second. But yeah, the fantastic tournament, guys. Dude, I think they probably will upload the tournament on their YouTube channel into two different parts. That's what they've usually done for the past. So if you missed it, you can catch it there. Anyway, before we get into 9.0, we're going to cover the final 6 cards that were revealed during the tournament. So let's move in. Scoia'tael first. Wield a superior elven magic and unleash a torrent of spells on your opponent. So Scoia'tael seems to be the way they're heading with Scoia'tael. So first up, we have Francesca Findabair, finally returned to the game. 7 strength, 10 provisions, elf, mage, veil. Whenever you play a special card, remove 1 counter. Counter 3. When counter reaches 0, spawn and play a doomed copy of the last special card you played. Francesca Findabair's blue elven eyes rest impenetrable and hard as glass. When he was introduced to her, the Daisy of the Valley smiled. The smile, though incredibly beautiful, filled the Witcher with terror. So this is a really interesting card. This reminds me of Etheline from Midwinter, where you could play 2 copies of a bronze spell. Obviously, this is, a second copy of the 3rd special you play when she's on the board. This is a really powerful effect if it goes off, right? This is double Oneiromancy, double Muzzle, double Scourge, double anything, double Call the Forest, double Waters of Broccolon if you want to go Harmony, double Rebuke. There's a lot of every single special card you can play. The 3rd one you'll spawn a doomed copy of it. So even though Oneiromancy gets doomed, at least you get to thin your deck, and it's a lot of tempo. So the first thing first is she's 7, which means she's in a pretty high strength range, which means it's not easy to remove her. Secondly, she's veiled, which means she cannot be locked. She's not restricted to any row, so the only way to take her down is to damage her. You do have some turns. You have about 2 turns to damage her before this effect goes off. But there are ways to reduce the counter more than 1 in a single turn, right? You can play Fauve into... You can probably play Call the Forest into Fauve, into Isengrim's Council. And that'll give you like 2 counters down right there, right? This is just a better Stefan Skellen. Stefan is a 5 for 9 provisions. It's a 7 for 10 provisions. Stefan is limited tactics only. She can use any special. Stefan is on an order. She's on a counter, yes, but she has Veil for protection. Stefan does not have that protection. This is a really, really fun card. I don't want to give it a 4, however. I think she's a 3.5 out of 5 stars, just because of the counter, and she's in the middle of 3.5 and 4 for me. I don't want to give her a 4 just because if she dies, you just played a really expensive Elder Bear in Scoia'tael, which really sucks. But if she goes off, that's 2+ ticks for Gord as well, because Gord, she's playing 2 that's an extra point for Gord, because she obviously copies a spell. This card is fantastic if you can get it off in... Actually, no, is it? I'm thinking of a double Waters of Broccolon. The problem with that is you'd have to draw Francesca, and then you'd have to play... On the 4th turn, you would have to play Waters of Broccolon, assuming you played specials in this 2nd, 3rd turn as well. So you're actually missing a lot on Harmony ticks. So I don't think actually Harmony is good with her. I don't think Waters of Broccolon is actually a good card on her. Honestly, I think the best way would be Control, like double Muzzle, double Oneiromancy for double thinning. Double Shaping Nature is actually really strong, a lot of tempo. That's really good. Let's just look at all the specials we have, right? Let's just see what the specials are. Card types, special, there we go. Double Shoop. You can double Shoop with her. That's true. That's very true. That's a lot of fun. I actually want to try that. This is NR. Double Renew, double Handmarvins. Muzzle is being changed to a spell, guys, and I think it got pushed to 11 provisions in 9.0, so we'll look at that later. Double Yorwith's Gambit, if you so wish. Double Uma's Curse. You can have a lot of fun with that. Double Heatwave is actually really powerful here. This is actually a really good one as well. Call the Forest, obviously. You can do double Novigradian Justice, which actually could be pretty strong. Yeah, so I honestly, I'm going to give her like... I would say I'd give her a 3.5. I think she's a very good card, but if she's removed, it just feels really bad. So yeah, really good card in my opinion. And I love the fact that she's back. One of my favorite artworks ever. Really good. Anyway, let's move on to the epic Vanadane. Or I assume that's how you say it, Vanadane. By the way, Francesca's in his card art as well. There you go. 6 strength, 8 provisions, elf. Deploy. Move 2 cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck. Add waylay to your hand for each card moved that way. Whenever you play waylay, spawn an elven deadeye on this row. It's better to first gag humans, then listen to what they have to say. I love the wordplay on that. So this is just Elf Swarm. This is some really good Elf Swarm. You can obviously unbrick your hand if you drew into, let's say, Alaran or a Broklan Sentinel, or just some bad bronze cards you don't want to play in the specific round. You can just put them onto the bottom of your deck and then get 2 waylays. This actually can be pretty interesting in a non-interactive Scoia'tael deck, because while yes they can interact with Vanadin himself, you are getting 2 extra waylays and you're putting in potentially 2 bricks to the bottom of your deck. Also, every waylay you play is getting double value because of this condition right here. Whenever you play waylay, spawn an elven deadeye on this row, right? So if you do get the death blow for waylay, it's 9. That's really good. This card is, I think, really good for Elf Swarm. He's 8 provisions, which means he's competing with stuff like Toruviel, I believe. Yeah, Toruviel, right? And Icing Rim. Like, this is great Icing Rim value. This is fantastic Icing Rim value because it's just more waylays, right? Honestly, you could probably remove Toruviel for Vanadin. I think Vanadin is more consistent value because Toruviel is just good deploy value, right? She plays as a minimum 9 for 8 and potentially more on the range row if you get some anti-swarm. But this guy can play even more. He's a high strength. Your opponent, if they lock him, you don't feel bad because he's still an elf body and he contributes to Icing Rim. It's not bad at all, actually. Honestly, I think oops, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, honestly, I think Vanadin is a fantastic card. I'm going to give this card a 4 out of 5. I think it's a fantastic card. I think it's really strong. Just some great elf synergy. You can also play... Also, Whale is a special card which synergizes with your Whisperers here and, of course, Francesca. 2 extra Whales means you can obviously get extra points on Gord as well. So yeah, 4 out of 5 easily. I think a fantastic card. Love the fact that this card art showcases like some sort of rebellion between humans and elves. Really cool stuff. Moving on to the rare Sorceress of Dol Blathana, Elf Mage 4/5 Order. Create and play a bronze Scoia'tael special card with a provision cost equal to or lower than this card's power. Whilst you're mesmerized by the fishes, a different elf moves to cut your throat. Oof. So yeah, this card is really interesting. This card, so let's look at the specials. So 5 or 4 provision specials, right? So let's just quickly look at it. We've got 2 card types, specials, go to 5 and 4. She's not limited to Scoia'tael, yes. Scoia'tael Factions, Scoia'tael, there you go. So these are the cards she can spawn. It says bronze as well. So yeah, ignore Morana Runestone. So you've got Waylay, you've got Nature's Rebuke, Circle of Life, Dryad's Caress, and Tempering. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different special cards. If this was a deploy, she would be an instant 5 out of 5. Instant 5 out of 5. The potential of being able to play a Rebuke on a card, on a 4-strength card, is insane, right? But because she's an Order, this card drops from a 5 to like I would say a 3.5 out of 5. I don't know. I think 3 is she's not above average. She's a really good card, right? She requires some sort of removal or answer with lock and stuff, because if you don't, it's potential removal, right? Now, yes, it's not guaranteed because she creates 3 out of these 5 options. So there are going to be there are going to be instances where you miss out on Rebuke, but you still got some good cards. You got a potential Purify Favorite Dryad, potential Hand Boost, just a boost in general, and a Bomb. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I forgot this. Yeah, Bomb as well. 6 cards. So you know, you got some good stuff here. You got some really good stuff here. I would always say expect going in, playing her 2, potentially get Rebuke value, but you might want to have some 3s on the board for Waylay or Circle of Life. The chances of you not hitting any of these 3 is going to be very low, but there might be instances where you hit her making a Bomb, Dryad's Caress, and a Tempering, right? Which can feel bad, but they're still good value, right? Like, what's the minimum this card plays for? A 5 for 4, 9. This is a 3 plus 3. This is a 6. That's a 10. This can play as a 11 if you get the Death Blow. This can play as a 10. It's really good. This card is an easy 3.5 out of 5. It's a bronze card, requires answers. It synergizes extremely well with Francesca Finderbear counter. Gord value. It's a good card. It's an easy 3.5 out of 5. Finally, guys, Whisperer of Dol Blathana. Common 3/5 Elf Mage. Veil. When you play a special card, spawn a base copy of Self on this row and remove a counter, counter 1. You won't find more fertile land than in the Valley of Flowers, and with a little magic you can count on a ripe harvest up to 3 times a year. I think it's a little loud actually, I'm just going to reduce the volume slightly. There you go. So yeah, this card is very similar to your Revenants from Northern Realms, your Kikimor Warriors, actually a very good example. I think Kikimor Warrior is 4 provisions though, right? Yeah. Your Griffin Witcher Adept, so anything that can self-replicate. Ethereal, that's another very good example. But I think the best one is Revenant. You put this on the board, and once you play a spell, it spawns a base copy, and then the first one stops after that, and then the second, and then you play another spell, the second one, if it lives, will spawn another copy. So this is Elf Swarm right here, that synergizes with special cards. This is a lot of Elf Swarm here. The big difference between this and a Revenant is that this has Veil, which means you cannot lock it. And the only way to answer this then would be to deal 3 damage, which isn't difficult, but yeah, it's a good card. I think if you remove Veil, this would be 4 provisions then, because it would be the same as Kikimor. Yeah, right, this card right here. So this one right here. But yeah, right now the best way to compare this is with a Revenant. So I'm going to give this card a 3 out of 5. It's very easy to remove. Almost every deck is going to have some sort of 3 damage. But it's good. It's a good card. It's not a super powerful card. It's not a 5 out of 5. It's a good card that requires an answer. It can fit both in a Skeletal deck and an Elf Swarm deck very easily. Yeah, just a really good card overall. So yeah, just gonna quickly go over this, guys. Francesca's a 3.5, Vanadin is a 4, Sorceress is 3.5, Whisper is a 3. Overall, some really interesting options. You've got some Elf Swarm, but you also got some Skeletal, and it's really good to see this. Elf for Squirtle has got some great cards here. Really happy with this. I can't wait to play this. This is my favorite faction here. Alright, let's move on to the neutrals. Teleportation, common spell, 4 provisions. Reset an allied unit's power. If it's a bronze unit, replay it instead. There was a flash and he stopped seeing, hearing, or feeling anything, apart from the cold. Cold was the only thing felt inside the black nothingness, amid silence, amorphousness, and timelessness, because the teleport dulled and extinguished all other senses. This card is like this card is like Midwinter Decoy, You would play Decoy on a card and then it would come back to your hand and then you replay it, right? This card seems really interesting. It's a reset on your ally, but if it's a bronze, you get to replay it instead. This works really well on damage units that have some strong deploy effects. You can play this on. You can play this in Swarm on like something like a poor fucking infantry to get a more Swarm on the board. You can play this on a order card to reactivate its order, like a Revenant, that's already been used. You can play this in monster decks to re-trigger Thrives, like Ice Giant. You could replay Ice Giant and re-trigger Thrives again. That's a pretty interesting use. You could use this in Harmony to re-trigger the Harmony deck. So let's say you have a Dryad on the board. A Young Dryad? No. What's the Harmony unit called? Where are you? Yeah, this one right here. Dryad Fletching. There you go. Harmony, right? And then let's say you play your... let's say you play a Bowman. So you play the Bowman. You proc Harmony, and then you play this card on it, pull off the board, and play it again. You re-trigger Harmony and get the deploy effect again. I'm pretty sure there's like some really strong effects here that I'm missing. You could play it on a Blue Stripe Scout to get another copy of a Commander if you so wish. You can play it on an NL Conqueror again for Thrive. You could play it on a... Where is it? You could play it on... You can actually play it on Carrick City Guard to reactivate its engine ability. That's really interesting as well. You could reactivate it on. You could replay it on a poison. So if you have a single poison in your hand, you have this special card, you could still get the double poison off because you just replay the poison, right? Yeah, some interesting effects over here. You could replay it on. As I said, what am I thinking of here? You could replay on a damage Cyclops, like a damage card. Replay on a Cyclops. It's an interesting card. I don't think it's super powerful. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some faction that might see some niche use out of this. I'm thinking of Monster Thrive. Just being able to re-trigger Thrive seems like a really nice effect for 4 provisions. So yeah, honestly, I would give this card a 2.5 out of 5. I think it's an average card. Just straight average. I might be missing something. Do let me know if you think of any really funky interactions, right? Let's go the other one. The other common Megascope. This is an artifact, by the way. Deploy. Pick a bronze allied unit. After 2 turns, spawn its base copy on the right of Megascope. In order to communicate at a distance, one must construct a magical artifact, a Megascope, using magic. This is like a mini portal almost. You can use this. This has some interesting effects. You can immediately use this on greatswords, actually. You can use it on this card. It's a 10 for 4 then. Because it spawns it doesn't spawn and play, right? Yeah, it just spawns. So it's a 10 for 4 on greatswords. You can use this to activate double engines. This is literally a mini portal just for bronzes. This is a really powerful card. I'm gonna give this card a 4 out of 5. I'm not thinking of a lot of the synergies, but I think it's just a powerful card in general. If we look at all the, if we go to units and we go to color, we go to bronze. So yeah, this one is the obvious one. You can use this on, you can probably get 2 copies of Hawker Smuggler. You can get more consumes, just more engines with Fallen Knights. It doesn't trigger these, right? It's just spawn. You could get a Griffin. That's another option in monsters because it doesn't need to use the deploy effect, right? You can, yeah, some really interesting cards you can use this with. Really, really nice card. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I guarantee there's gonna be a deck that's gonna have some really nice synergy with this one. Again, the most obvious one for me is Ancrate Greatsword. A 10 for 4 is really good. So there you go, guys. That's all the cards coming. All 26 cards have been revealed. Let's move on to the 9.0 patch notes. Now, I will be revisiting these cards with these patches because 9.0 is a big patch. Northern Realms got a massive rework when it comes to a lot of their order cards, their charge cards to be specific. And so we're going to revisit these cards to see if we can see some new synergies, and that's going to be really fun, right? Alright, let's go through it. Patch 9.1 marks the release of our newest expansion, Once Upon a Pyre, but while it definitely steals the spotlight, there are some other changes and improvements coming to the game. One of them is a widely requested feature to be able to change the look of the play card in the main menu. This is an awesome feature, so for those who don't know what they're talking about, you can now change what this card looks like. So instead of just being Geralt Earden all the time, you can put your favorite card on it. That's really good. I love that. I think that's just a bit more customization that everybody is going to say yes to. Another important one is making the game faster by progressing, even if some visual effects were played and didn't finish yet. So this is really nice. It just makes the game feel more snappy without having to wait for auto effects to finish. Really good. In the developer stream during the tournament, they talked about how they decoupled some animations with abilities. That's a really nice thing. Additionally, our developers have a couple of words to say on the topic of new balance changes and share some insight. So let's see. Developer comment. First and foremost, the main event of this patch is obviously the release of the first expansion of the Price of Power set, Once Upon a Pyre, obviously. To that purpose, we've made a bunch of small changes and adjustments to support it. The other big event is long-awaited Northern Realms rework. We decided to move away from design of giving charges to the profit of the less restrictive and more flexible cooldown mechanic. Charges are as a mechanic stays in the game, but from now on as a self-contained one. As a side topic, we keep giving attention to lead abilities to increase diversity and to give them more identity. So changes. Unranked standard mode matches are now shown under training mode, alright. Gameplay speed has been improved by decoupling logic and visuals. The game will no longer wait for all the card visuals to finish before proceeding further. This is really nice, really nice. Search bar no longer requires the cursor to hover over them in order to be responsive. This is a fantastic change. There's been so many times where I'm in the deck builder, for example, and I do this, I type and I go off and I just can't type anymore, even though I haven't clicked anything, right? I haven't clicked on this, it just deactivates for some reason. Like, you see that? Yeah. So that's a really good change, really good change. Neutrals. Torrential rain, provisions change from 5 to 4. So every single weather, bronze weather, has been put to 4 provisions. So if we go to weather, does that show up? No, it doesn't, right? Yeah, so these cards right here, right now they play as a potential 6 for 5, all of them, but now they're a 6 for 4. There's rain right here. That's a nice buff to weather. Obviously, we've been seeing CDPR trying to push a weather sort of deck into the game more and more, and we have started seeing hints of it with monsters and with the new Skellige cards, right? With these cards right here, which synergize well with rain, especially, and storm also. So that's really interesting to see. You might see maybe a single torrential rain in a Skellige deck, though I don't think these are alchemy cards, right? Yeah, they have no tags, so maybe not. Avalok Sage, power change from 1 to 2, provisions change from 11 to 10. It's a nice buff. For those who don't know what the card does, Avalok, this one right here, play it to artifact from your deck. So yeah, 2 for 10 is better than a 1 for 11, obviously. It's a nice buff. Avalok himself is now a 6 for 10. So yeah, this card essentially was now comparable to a Falklet from monsters. So the 6 strength is going to be nice for him. He now places a potential 12 for 10, which is still not incredible, but it's a body, right? And it synergizes well with skeleton cards that we've seen in the expansion right here, right? So I don't know if he's going to see play, but it's always nice to see buffs to underutilized cards. Weathermaker has a new part of ability. If you control Scepter of Storms, increase or decrease duration by 3 instead. Before I talk about this, let's just look at Scepter of Storms. Provision is now a 5 provision card. So Vader Maker, this guy right here. Deploy, increase all row effect durations by 1, decrease all. So he's essentially enhancing more value on your weather, right? So now he has an extra. So if you control Scepter, it's increases or decreases by 3 instead. So that's a lot of value right there. And if you look at Scepter, this allows you to spawn one of the 3 weathers here. So this now plays as a potential 12 or 5. That's pretty good. So you can see what they're trying to do. You play Avalok, pull this out, and then play Weathermaker to increase the value of your weather, right? Hints of a weather deck coming out here. Hints. I don't have much to say about these changes, except it's always a good thing to see more things get buffed. So yeah. Francis Bedlam is now a bandit. Bedlam is, yeah, this guy right here. So he's a bandit now. So if you're running like a bandit deck, he gets boosted by Free Company, I believe it's called. Yeah, this one right here. I don't think there's any other. There's like a few bandit synergies. Oops, bandit. Where is it? Where is the card? Yeah, this one right here, right? Yeah, if you control a bandit, gain zeal. Yeah, sure. Vigo's Muzzle is now a spell. So yeah, Vigo's Muzzle did not get a provision buff as I thought. It's still a 12, but now it's a spell as well, which means you can't tutor this still. You can, but it just synergizes with some certain spell cards, right? Scoia'tael spell. Anything spell based? Anything that particularly wants a spell to be played? I don't think so. Oh, Northern Realms, yeah, Northern Realms. Spells, right? Create and play a 4% spell. So now this Gerhardt can actually spawn a Muzzle. Muzzle's at 12, so you need to wait 8 turns for that, though. That's really a lot of turns. It's a lot of turns. That's you gotta be careful about that. Yeah, it's a lot of turns to wait for Muzzle, but it is an opportunity, right? So it's just a nice addition to Gerhardt of L. Let's move on to Commander's Horn. Added warfare category, provisions change from 9 to 8. This is actually a big one. This now means that you can spawn this. You can tutor this with Natalis. It's a 10 for 9. It's now a 10 for 8. And with Natalis, that's a 12-point play. And it's a warfare, which means it triggers your warfare effects. This is actually a really nice change to it. This is really nice. NR doesn't have a lack of swarm, so this is always going to get some good value. So I think it's a really good change, actually. I would actually love this to be a warfare and a tactic, so it synergizes with NG as well. I think that would be a really nice change to this. Just add tactic to this would make it just more flexible, right? So that Menno can pull it out for Nilfgaard decks. Especially Nilfgaard soldiers, which easily spawn, like, swarm the board, right? So hopefully we see that in the future. Let's move on to Marigold's Hailstorm. This is now a 8 provision spell, and it's a spell as well, right? Hailstorm. Yeah, it's a spell, so it's another option for Gerhardt to spawn it after 6 turns. No, 4 turns. He starts at 4. Germain Piquant has a new part of his ability. Orders spawn a cow, cooldown 3. So you can now spawn more cows with Germain. That's really cool. It's just more swarm. The thing is, it's going to spawn on the melee row, right? Which means, and you already clogged the melee row with this guy, but if your opponent kills some of the cows, you can actually spawn one every 3 turns, it's a nice addition. It's a nice quality of life buff to Germain. Nothing wrong with it. So let's move on to monsters now. Ghoul. Power change from 2 to 1. Provisions change from 6 to 5. This is actually a very big buff to Ghoul. Because Ghoul right now is a 2 for 6, yeah? But now it's a 1 for 5. And I honestly think that a provision buff is more significant than a power nerf. A 1 for 5 provisions a very, very nice slot for it to slot into. And obviously we've seen cards like Gankian, which can potentially reach a 9 for 5, which means that you're playing a 10 for 5 with Ghoul. By the way, I just realized something. The new neutral, this one right here, if you use this on Gankian, this goes to a 13 for 5 and reprocs your thrives. This actually is another great interaction with Gankian. Yeah, that's a good one. Teleportation on a Gankian is actually pretty strong. Alright. So yeah, I think the ghoul buff is really nice. Endrega Larva though, oof. Power change from 1 to 2, provisions change from 5 to 6. So they flip-flop these two cards here. I think this is a nerf. Larva has been a staple in monster decks. It's such a powerful bronze card, right? 2 Thrive engines that have armor, which means it's very difficult to kill. For 5 provisions is phenomenal. This card is an easy 5 out of 5, but now it's a 2 for 6. It's a indirect buff to Koshke though, because now you're spawning 2s, which will trigger Thrives. Another thing is now Larva actually procs the Thrive for your Neckers. So if you're playing a Necker, you can play Necker first and then Larva, and Larva actually procs the Thrive. It's a nerf in my opinion, but it's not a huge nerf. It's a nerf to running this card in every monster decks. Like Keltullus decks might not run Larva anymore. You know, they actually run Larvas, but now maybe they don't want to because it's, like, you know, 6 provisions instead of 5. Like Larva might not see play in Vampire decks now just because it's now more expensive. What other decks do? Maybe you remove from Carapace. Like, I think Larva is going to see guaranteed play in Force of Nature decks and Fruit of Iskit decks. Like Thrive decks are going to always run this card. It's a great value card. But in other monster decks, it's probably going to be cut. Like, it's going to be difficult to fit it in. So it's a decent nerf to this card. Alright, the Crones have been buffed. Brewers, power change from 5 to 6. Ability change to Zeal. Order, consume an allied unit, charge 1. Increase the number of charges by 1 when you play a Crone. So this is actually a really nice one. This means that you're always incentivized to play Brewers first. Previously, if you played these Crones before, you would always have to consume 2/3 units, which sometimes you didn't want to, right? Because she goes really tall. But now you play her first. She's 6 on deploy with the consume, and you can get another consume if you play one of these Crones. It's a nice one. Wispus and Weavus also both are 6s now, which means Crone. Yeah, there you go. This is now what power, right? So 6 for 7 potentially plays as a 10 for 7. This plays potentially as a 10 for 7, and more consumes with this as well. I think it's a nice buff, especially considering how many relics we've gotten in this patch. We're getting in this patch with monsters. You know, we're getting She Who Knows, their mother, Ratcatcheress, Gankian, and Witch Apprentice. So yes, there is some definite relic synergy here, especially for this card and this card. So yeah, I think Crones will definitely see a bit more play. You can also play some gigantic Weavuses, right? I think Weavus is the damage one. Yeah, Wisp is the damage one. You can renew her to potentially get 12 removal, 12-point play with like 6 removal, 8 removal. You know, you can some good stuff in there. It's a nice buff. It's a nice buff to them. Fruits of Isgith, provision change from 11 to 12. I told you guys in the monster video that I wanted to play a Fruits of Isgith Thrive deck, and this is just a nail in the coffin for that. Actually, that's a wrong phrase, right? This is a definite guarantee I'm going to try out a Isgith deck now. 12 provisions is just extra stuff. I'm definitely going to try a Thrive deck. It seems really interesting to play this one with the new monster cards. K-Ran, ability change to immunity deploy, consume 3 allied units. It's the same, except now it's immune. This is a huge buff. The only weakness of this card now is Yrden and Geralt Igni. Nothing else can touch this card. And that's insane. This means that you can go tall with this, and you aren't super scared of anything apart like most of the tall room in the game. This really helps the new Sabbath condition that monsters want to hit, right? Because now you can safely make your Karen go taller and taller, hit that 25 mark, try to get to that 25 strength on the row where the Karen is. It's just a really big buff to this card. Really, really big buff. Very excited for this. Deathwish decks are going to love this card even more now. Penitent, ability change to Thrive. Deathwish, summon a random 7 cost from your deck to this row. So the big change here is now it spawns it to the same row as the Penitent. This is just a nice quality of life to attain your Sabbath again. Because let's say you consume Penitent and your Puko Boombreaker goes to the melee row instead of the range row. Right? That can suck if you want to trigger Sabbath. So this is now a much better way to trigger Sabbath. It's a nice buff. Really nice buff. Alright, that's monsters done. So some really nice changes here. Overall, some buffs. This is a decent nerf right here, but it doesn't kill the card, but it's not going to be seen in every monsters deck now. Skellige, Rage of the Seas now, provisions change from 13 to 14. And with the new Skellige cards we've seen, right, this is a nice buff, because I definitely think Rage of the Seas is going to synergize extremely well with Fulmar and Bride of the Sea and Melusine Cultist, right? Like, Especially this card right here, because it's an easy way to gain another Gigascorpion Decoction. So yeah, that's a nice buff. Marjoram is now a 4P bronze. We've seen so many changes to special bronze cards that were 5P that are now 4P by CDPR, and they've made the bronzes so good now. Marjoram is already a very decent alchemy card. Where are you? Yeah, right here. It's a 6 for 5. With alchemy, it's a 7 on the heal. If you hit armor, it's even better. But now it's a 6 for 4, and even more. It's a really good card now. It's even better. Running a 1-off of this just feels good now. It's really good. Really nice buff. Sigrifa's Right is now an 8. That's a big one for Bride of the Sea. Because now, it's an 8 provision card, which means playing from the provision card less. You need to have 4 turns of rain. 4 turns of rain or storm to be able to play another Sigrifa's Right, which is attainable, right? Your leader gives you 2 charges, I believe. If I go to Rage of the Sea, yeah, 2 turns right here. So if you commit both turns, you can play a Sigrifa's Right with Bride of the Sea. Decent, actually a very decent buff. If you have Tears of the Siren, you won't get it because it sticks down by 1, so it's a 7. So yeah, it's attainable, but you would have to commit a lot. But it's a nice buff. It's a nice buff. It's a really nice card. You can replay your Defender, your Draco Turtles, you know, some just great cards in there. Bear Abomination is now a cultist. I believe Bear Abomination is the Bear Abomination. Bear Abomination is this one, right? Yeah, it's a cultist now. Is any synergy for cultist? Transformer damage. It's not cultist synergy. Am I missing? This might be a change in the future. Maybe in the next sub expansion, Skellige gets more cultists to play with, like cultist synergy. That could be the case right here. Yeah, that could be the case right there. Hammond now is also a cultist. Ooh, Hammond is also a cultist. Hammond, yeah, this card is a cultist as well. This definitely is leaning towards the fact that the next sub expansion that's coming in August or maybe October is going to have some sort of big cultist synergy for Skellige. I think this is the big thing. Armored Drakkar is now 4P card. Wow, that's a big one. This card is really good. It's nice extremely well with this one, Svalbard Priest. And as a 4P, that's really good. That's really good now. That's a big buff. You can pull this out with Portal now. It's a really big buff. Iced nerfed to 12 provisions. Wow. I think it's a warranted buff. The 3 Bloodthirst nerf from the last patch hit him slightly, but he's still extremely popular, right? 12P is a commitment now. This guy's now competing with Harold and stuff like this. It's a big change. It's a big buff. I think this will actually affect the deck now. Actually, will it? No, right? You can just sacrifice a 5P for a 4P. Yeah. Ice is still gonna be good. It's just a little more expensive. So yeah, overall some decent Skellige changes. Alright, NR is the big one. So we all know that NR now is being reworked. Charges are they're going to focus on the cooldown mechanics. So Stockpile, the lead ability, is now provisions change from 17 to 15. Ability change to Order, reduce the cooldown of 3 adjacent Northern Realms unit by 1. And spawn a volunteer to their row, 3 charges. So cooldown. Right now, which cards have cooldown? Cooldown. This is units, I believe. Northern Realms units, right? So faction NR. Wait, what? Doesn't Meave have a cooldown? Oh, Meave is a counter, not a cooldown. Yeah. Unfortunate. Meave is a counter, not a cooldown. Anyway, let's see what we can do. Priscilla, power change from 5 to 6, ability change to Zeal. Order, heal an allied unit by 4 and reset its cooldown. Inspired, boost an allied unit by 4 and reset its cooldown. So, nothing to judge yet. We're just going to go down and see what cards you can synergize with. But yeah, you can reset a cooldown of a card and you can heal it. And if it's inspired, you can now boost it by 4 instead. So it doesn't have formation anymore, which is interesting. It doesn't have formation, so you'd have to buff it manually somehow. Anyway, Dandelion. Provisions change from 8 to 9. Ability change to Order. Boost a unit in your deck by 2. Cooldown 2. Inspired at the end of your turn. Boost the top unit in your deck by 1. This is interesting. So you have an Order effect, where you can boost any unit in your deck by 2. any unit in your deck by 2, which is on a cooldown of 2, right? The cooldown goes down by 1 when you end your turn, right? Inspired, at the end of your turn, boost the top unit in your deck by 1. So this is an engine part. This card is the engine part right here. This is an engine. So if this thing, if Dandelion is, I think Dandelion's a 6 right now, right? Oops, Dandelion, yeah, he's a 6 right now. So if he's at 7 or more, if he's at green strength, he is essentially a slower Erland. He's just boosting the top unit in your deck by 1. The top unit. That's really interesting. That's a really interesting effect. It's a powerful effect, right? It's carryover, which is really good. It's a buff to Erland as well because this is more boost that Erland can absorb. It protect if an engine is on top of your deck, it just makes it more difficult to kill. This is a really nice card. And the thing is, you can use Priscilla to reset his cooldown immediately to double boost something in your deck by 2 again. So yeah, you can play Dandelion first, and then you play Priscilla, and if she's inspired, you can boost Dandelion so he's inspired then, and then you can use her order to reset his cooldown to hand buff something else again. Yeah, I'm seeing some synergies now. I'm seeing some synergies. It's very difficult to say how good this archetype's going to be, as obviously we've never played it. It's all theoretical right now. So yeah, Damn Sorceress, ability change to Zeal order, destroy a unit shield, then boost self by 2. Cooldown 2. So this is the same, except now it's got a cooldown instead of charges. So the cooldown one is big because previously what the problem with this card was that you'd have to give it charges, and you'd also have to have a unit on the board with shield. So now you just have to worry about having units with the shield on the board, right? I think it's a nice buff. Cooldown 2 again. Yeah, decent change. Reinforced Ballista, ability change to Formation, order, damage a unit by 1, cooldown 1, resupply, reduce the cooldown by 1. So this card now behaves very similarly to your Elven Swordmasters. Swordmaster, wait, what? Elven. Oh, that's why. Elven. Yeah, it behaves similar to this card, right? Deal damage deal 1 damage every turn with a cooldown of 1. Resupply, reduce the cooldown by 1, right? So if you play a resupply card in the same turn, you can potentially double ping. It's actually a really good card now. Ballista is, I believe, 5 provisions. Yeah, reinforced Ballista. It's 5 provisions. Yeah, more value to playing warfare cards to get the resupply proc. Really interesting card. Really nice card. Hubert Rake, provisions change from 7 to 8, ability change to whenever you use an order ability while this card is in your deck, remove a counter from it. When counter reaches 0, summon this card from your deck to your ranged row. So this card is the Northern Realms version of Alarin / Winter Queen / Roach / Knickers / Ghost, Redanian Ghost Ship. A card that you want to tutor from a deck, and its condition is you just have to play 10, you have to use 10 order abilities. This is actually a really interesting card. It's thinning for NR. 10 order abilities is not that difficult a thing to achieve. In your head, you just have to keep track of how many orders you've... I don't know if the counter goes down while it's in the deck or not. Like, if the number actually changes. I assume it would, to make it easier on the player to know when it's going to come out. This actually seems like a really nice card. Anyway, Winch. Ability change to boost an allied unit by 5 and reduce its cooldown by 3. This can actually be used on Priscilla. Not Priscilla, Dandelion, sorry. You can boost Dandelion, and you can immediately use this cooldown again. Is this... you can use this on... Is there anything with a massive cooldown? We'll see, because right now all the cooldowns I'm seeing are 2s, which aren't too big, but, you know, we'll see. Syntron Envoy. Provisions change from 5 to 4. Ability change to Formation, order. Look at 3 random cards from your deck and move 1 to the top. Cooldown 2. So this is just synergizing with Dandelion, right? You can move 3 random cards in your deck, and you can look at 3 random cards and move 1 to the top, and then you can just keep it there because you don't have to use its order ability, right? So let's say you want to buff something like what wants to be buffed? Maybe an engine, maybe your I don't know, your Anseus. Your Anseus, you see your Anseus, for example, and you move him to the top. He wants to be buffed, right? The more buffs the guy has, the better he is. And then you just, you know, Dandelion will, inspired ability will boost top units because Syntron Envoy is, you know, you can reuse it, so you can potentially, let's say you're happy with the buffs on your Anseus card, you can potentially move your Selkirk. Now, obviously, it's look at 3 random cards, so it's not guaranteed. It's still a decent ability. It's still a really interesting ability. Foltest Pride. Power change from 6 to 5. Armor change from 0 to 1. So it's still effective the same strength, except now it can be seized by muzzle, and it can be... yeah. It's definitely more interactions there. Ability change to Zeal. Order. Damage an enemy unit by 2 and units adjacent to it by 1. So on deploy, this plays as a potential 9 for... how much is Foltest Pride? 8, right? So this is placed as a 9 for 8, right? 2 plus 1 plus 1, 4. Yeah, 9 for 8 on deploy. Cooldown 4. Crew set cooldown to 2 instead. So there you go. There you got the big cooldowns right here. So if you use a winch on this card, you immediately can use its ability again, because you play this card, you use its ability, and you end turn. Cooldown goes from 4 to 3, and then you play winch on the next turn, and you can use it immediately. And if you're crew, the initial cooldown will be set to 2. That's really interesting. Really, this seems like a really scary card now, that this requires an answer. It's not melee locked, it's not range locked, it's just, but it can be locked though. But yeah, it's a really scary card. 4 damage? Holy cow, that's a lot. Sentient Spellweaver. Ability change to order. Damage a unit by 1, charge 1. Gain 1 charge when you play a mage or a spell. So the change here is it also gets charged when playing a spell. So it's the same card, except now spells proc give it charges. So let's see what spells we have. So obviously the new muzzle, obviously, but if I go to NR spells, this procs it, this procs it, this procs it. Rune Road has been changed, by the way, guys, so yeah, we'll look at that. Yeah, it's a nice buff to Sentient Spellweaver. It just makes it a bit more flexible. It also works with the casting contest, right? Really good. Anyway, Arethusa Adept. Provisions change from 5 to 4. Ability change to whenever you trigger Patience, boost self by 1. This card no longer gives charges. It now is an engine itself at 4 provisions. But Patience, guys, Patience. So if you have one Banner student on the board and you don't use its order ability, which means you're keeping its Patience, this ticks then. So your opponent now has to answer potentially 2 engines on the board. They have to answer the Adept, which is ticking, or they have to answer the potential Banner student that is gaining more damage potential with each turn. Right now we only have 3 Patience cards. We have Banner Student, Istred, and Gerhardt. So yeah, this card is a decent engine. It can be pulled up Portal as well because it's 4P. It's a mage itself, so it procs your Sentient Spellweaver. Honestly, seems like a decent engine, especially with Banner Student. Really decent engine. In any case, now 5 strength. Nice buff to her. Shani has been changed completely. Provisions changed from 9 to 10. Ability change to Zeal. Order. Summon a bronze human unit from your graveyard and give it Doomed. Cooldown 7. She's back. The resurrecting Shani is back with a huge cooldown of 7, which is where your Winch comes in, which is where your Priscilla comes in. You can reset its cooldown immediately to resummon. This actually works really well with stuff like Blue Stripe Commandos, your Cintrian, what's the card called? Cintrian Royal Guard. There you go, Cintrian Royal Guard. This is a really powerful card. Super excited to play with Shani now. Thaler, power change from 5 to 6. Ability change to Formation. Order. If neither player has passed and your opponent's hand is not full, both players draw a card. So this is similar to Mata, except Mata is a targeted draw. This one is your top card, right? So this energizes with your Cintrian Envoy, and if you've buffed it a lot with Dandelion, you can pull it with Thaler, right? So is this better than Mata? I don't think it's better than Mata because Mata guarantees the highest provision card in your deck. This doesn't. So I'm not sure if this card actually see play. I'm a little iffy about this change though. Alright, next up, Siege Support. Ability change to deploy melee, reduce the cooldown of an allied unit by 1, deploy range, boost an allied unit by 1. So this card is the same, except instead of giving a charge on the melee, it now reduces the cooldown of an allied unit by 1. It's a nice buff to it. It's a nice change to it. It makes sense. Battering Ram. Ability change to deploy crew, gain Zeal, order melee, move self to the range row, order range, move self to the melee row, then damage the highest enemy unit by 3. Cooldown 2. This card now actually works like a Battering Ram. You know, back and forth, then back and forth. So you play this on ranged, and if you've given it a crew pocket, you have Zeal instantly. And then the next turn, you bring this, it's on the melee row, so you click it, it goes to the range row. And then you have a cooldown ability as well. So it seems the way this works is the cooldown starts after you proc the order, right? So you proc the order, it goes to melee, and then you can only move to the range draw after 2 turns, right? Is that how I'm reading the card correctly? I assume that's how it works, but this is a nice change to it. It makes it an engine that is going to be a threat on the board every 3 turns or so, I think. Yeah. War Elephant has a new part ability, cooldown 6, so you can re-trigger War Elephant. Wow. It just goes taller and taller, but it's a nice buff to it. You can reduce the cooldown using stuff like, again, siege support. This winch is getting a lot of value. This card actually seems like it'll be it's a warfare card as well, so it synergizes with your machines. It seems like a really good card. Vest also has a new part, cooldown 3, so you can give zeal to a new order card every 3 turns. That's really nice. That's a really nice one. Bombardment is now 4p. This Bombardment is a fantastic card in machines, in machine NR. You get so many machines. Bombardment is a lot of value for 4p. That's really good. Sheila the Tanserville is now a 6p card. That's a nice buff. Rune Word has been changed from a 4 to 6. Ability change to create and play a Bronze Northern Realm Mage and give it shield. Ooh. Let's look at all the Northern, oops, not this one, NR, yeah. Bronze. So you have Damn Sorceress, Artus Adept, Spellweaver. Is this create and play? Yeah, it's create and play. So another Enchantress, another Banner. So on this, it's another engine. It's another engine. And it also works on the Banner. This is actually a decent card. 6p is a little expensive though. I don't think it's worth running. Like, it is a spell, so it does synergize with your Sentient Spellweaver, so maybe it's a cease play, but I'm a little iffy because 6 is a little expensive. And you're limited like these cards, right? Like, I think the best card is Adept for its engine and Spellweaver. I don't like this. If you have a bonded effect on, then this is also pretty good actually. This isn't great. This is okay. It's a 6 for 4. It's a 6 for 6 on this one, which is actually not good. Yeah. Yeah, I think this card isn't incredible. I think maybe at 5p it'll be better actually. I think it's 5p better, yeah. Anyways, Scoia'tael. Sage. Name change from Elven Scribe. Name change to Elven Scribe. Provisions change from 6 to 4. Ability change to remove a counter when you play a special card. Counter 3. When the counter reaches 0, boost self by 6. So, for those wondering, this is the Sage. Right here. When you play a special card, boost by 2. So this ability is gone. It's now an Elven Scribe. And this has this potentially plays as a 10 for 4. Assuming you can play 3 special cards. That's pretty good. It's similar to a Foglet. That card also has a ceiling of 10 for 4. Assuming the Fog doesn't get any doesn't miss out on any value. So yeah. Sage at 4 provisions. Remove a counter when you play a special card. Seems pretty good, yeah. Farseer is now a mage. Boost change from 2 to 3. It's a nice buff. Farseer is a 4p card. Reveal a random card from your deck. If it's a special card, boost self by 2. So now it's going to be a 7 for 4, and it's a mage as well. With Speletal coming, maybe this sees plays just because you potentially have more spells, special cards in your deck. Not bad. So yeah, that's about Scoia'tael. Let's move on to Nilfgaard. Imposter ability change to order. Lock an enemy unit, then spawn its base copy in the opposite row and boost it by the number of enemy units with a status. So instead of boosting it by 2, it now boosts it with the amount of enemy units on the row with a status. This is really powerful in a spy Nilfgaard deck, because you can play all your spies on, let's say, the melee row, and then you use Imposter on the melee Treant Boar, for example. And you have 4 spies. You get a Treant Boar that's at 9 strength then, because you have 4 spies, right? No, actually at 5 actually, because the board itself has got a status, right, lock. So it's actually this is a big buff to Imposter. It's a really big buff. Yeah, I think I like this change. It really enforces the fact that this is trying to be a spy leader for Nilfgaard. Courier provision change from 5 to 4. What is Courier? Courier. May look at the top. Yeah, okay. Deck manipulation. So that's interesting. Yeah. It's now a 5 for 4. That works with the Nilfgaard cards, right? So stuff like. Oh. I guess you can it's another of the Rians, because you can put a top card in the deck you want. It's an interesting card, right? Like the way Courier used to be played, and it used to be played was actually to play this on the range row, because then you could Cantrell that card, or you could banish it, that specific card, or Treherne or something. Interesting. Interesting. It's a nice buff. Viper, Witcher, Adept. Power change from 3 to 4. This is the engine. Viper. It's this one right here. Yeah. Nice buff to it. Nice buff to it. 4 for 4. Magnivision has a new part of the ability, Bonded. At the end of your turn, boost self by 1 instead. So if you have 2 Magnidivisions, they are not limited to being the only cards on the row. This is a nice buff. It just means you have 2 engines that boost themselves by 1 at the end of your turn. As long as it's this opponent fight. It's a really nice buff. This really nice buff. Fringilla Vigo now also counts constructs in addition to mages, and she's also 7 now instead of 8. This is really good because if you play Blightmaker and you move a mage to the top, you can instantly play Fringilla Vigo in the next turn because you have a Blightmaker and you have a Guardian, which is a construct. So she plays immediately for 10 as a 10 for 7 potentially. Really nice buff. Really nice buff. Anna Henrietta is now range locked. Developer comment. The point of this change is to allow players to choose to use it or not, similar to Libby. It's a nice one. It's a nice quality of life addition. I don't think it's a nerf per se unless your row is maxed out, which can suck. But sometimes you have matchups where you don't want to play your opponent's lead ability like line pockets because there's no value in it. So yeah, makes sense. Whew, that's it's a big video, this one. Anyway, Syndicate Jackpot has a new part of ability. Whenever an allied unit gives you coins, boosted by any excess amount gained. So this is actually a big one. This means you can never over-profit as long as the profit comes from a unit. So let's say you're at 8 coins and you play Street Urchins. Street Urchins give you profit 3, but because you're at 8, you only gain 1 coin, which means the Street Urchins will buff themselves, will boost themselves by 2. Really nice one. I think this is actually really good. You can still over-profit with special cards, by the way. So stuff like Fistek, Shakedown, they will still over-profit and lose value, but on a unit, this is really good. Actually, it's a really nice buff. It's a nice passive buff. Passive Floor Preaches is now a 4P card. This is actually a very good buff for Hidden Cache. Hidden Cache might actually make a resurgence in patch 9.0. This is actually a nice buff to this engine. It's a really good engine because it immediately places a 5 for 4 with Hidden Cache, right? And the Professor has been nerfed from 11 to 12. This is actually a nice, this is actually a decent nerf to this card. The Professor saw a lot of play with the damage increase to 4. He still is a decent card, but now it's a little more expensive to put him in stuff, especially because he competes with Jacques. And also with Syndicate getting, the Witchfinder, right? Yeah. That's a very... This might be more significant than I think. It's still a very good card, but you're going to have to sacrifice that for something. Alright, new features. 3 new trees in the reward book connected to the expansion. That's really nice. The play card in the main menu now shows your favorites, so we've already seen this. And of course, 26 new cards with Once Upon a Buyer. Game fixes. Fix a rare issue where a match could end with a draw after playing Sector Mutation. Whispers, Weavis, and Brewers will now show the correct values. That's nice. Saskia's Elven Deadeye ability will now correctly target immunes. Oh, I actually didn't know this was a bug. I did not know that. Actually, yeah, I don't play Elven Deadeye part of her at all, right? I usually play the Young Dryad or the Dwarf. Anyway. The Berserk multi-step contract will no longer progress incorrectly with Drummond's Queen's Guard. Koro will now draw first and discard second. Ah, so there you go. Koro will now draw first and discard second. So this is actually what she was supposed to do, but she actually didn't work. She would actually discard, then draw first. So that's actually better, because now if you draw into a skirmisher, you can then discard the skirmisher to gain extra value, right? Snowdrop will now prevent players from clicking the order ability if they have more than 8 cards. That's a nice quality of life change to her, so that you don't brick yourself accidentally, right? Or mill yourself accidentally. Allied units affected by Salamander's poison ability will no longer boost Thirsty Dame. This is actually a nice niche buff to Salamander. Because I remember playing Salamander once against Nilfgaard, and I poisoned like 9 units on my side of the board, and that Thirsty just went up by 9 because that felt fair. But there you go, guys. That is the entirety of 9.0. This, and of course the new Scoia'tael and neutral cards. I hope you guys did enjoy this video and are excited for the patch dropping tomorrow. Very excited for this. Whew, this is a long one, but there you go, guys. Not much else to talk about. I hope you guys are excited for the patch. I am super excited. I have some ideas for some decks I want to try out using the new cards you've seen. But yeah, without further ado, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.